Hello world, it's Rishabh, and how do we diagnose coronavirus, recently known as COVID-19? Can you drive up to a CVS or Walmart and get diagnosed? Can you test yourself at home, and can it be detected early? Let's find out in today's video, Diagnosing Coronavirus. Every day, thousands of people are being infected with COVID-19. We see schools, workplaces, and meetings banned. But how do we actually know if these people have COVID-19? Can they be diagnosed or tested in the first place? First, let's take a look at the situation in China, Japan, the US, and finally, some groundbreaking technology being developed to test and diagnose for COVID-19 sooner. Before we get started, we want to hear from you. Please take a second to leave a comment down below on what you think about the coronavirus. How is it affecting you? Have your schools or workplaces been closed? Without further ado, let's get into the story, starting in China. Within 6 weeks, mainland China had the first COVID-19 outbreak and went from 1,000 patients to 80,000, mostly in a quarantine state known as Hubei. China's government made testing for coronavirus free so that the public would have a fluid procedure. China, along with many other countries, all use a similar testing procedure given by the WHO using a technique known as, wait for it, PCR, or polymerase chain reaction. Japan uses the same technique. Let's take a closer look at their situation. Japan's population has a median age of 47.3 years. That means that the average person in Japan is 10 years older than someone in the US. We know that the elderly have a hard time dealing with COVID-19, so Japan's containment is essential. Japanese testing centers use a technique known as polymerase chain reaction. To understand how this technique works, let's first understand how the COVID-19 virus infects human cells. Coronavirus gets its name from the little spike proteins, which protrude from the surface of the virus envelope, making it look like a solar corona. These spike proteins allow the virus to attach itself to cells in your nose, mouth, or eyes that produce the ACE2 protein receptor. The spike protein communicates with ACE2 and tricks the cell into thinking that the coronavirus is just a normal part of the body, allowing the coronavirus envelope to fuse with the cell membrane and releasing the contents of the coronavirus into the cell. The primary material released is RNA. This RNA is processed by our cells to produce more viral proteins, eventually creating many newly formed viruses in the cell, which burst out of the cell to potentially infect more and more cells and other people. RNA is the key to diagnosing and testing for coronavirus. Scientists are able to take a swab of cells from your nose or other airway and break them down, releasing all of the contents of the cell. Then, they selectively filter out all of the RNA in the cell. Because RNA is used to make proteins and other cellular organelles, scientists need to selectively look for the RNA that is responsible for creating the COVID-19 proteins. RT-PCR stands for reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction. Let's break that down into two major steps. The first is reverse transcriptase, which is a technique that converts RNA to DNA using reverse transcription enzymes. Scientists have determined that the specific viral genome of COVID-19, which allows them to perform the second step, a polymerase chain reaction. Here, scientists use primers, which are complementary DNA sequences that bind to the COVID-19 DNA strands and can create many copies of the DNA, ignoring all the other DNA in the cell. In real-time RT-PCR, the strategy suggested by the CDC, a fluorescent signal, is used to detect the viral DNA. This boosts the strength of the fluorescent signal, making it easier to detect. The US has some companies that are working on groundbreaking RT-PCR techniques to improve efficiency and accuracy. So let's answer that question. Can we really drive up to a CVS or Walmart and get tested for COVID-19? Let's take a look at the situation in the United States, which is rapidly getting worse. We have surpassed over 1,000 cases already, outbreaks happening in Washington and New York. Social isolation has taken place. But for some people who may be having the disease, how do they know that they are carrying it until symptoms occur? For this, we have to implement better testing procedures. Google's sister company, Verily, has announced that they are working on screening sites for patients experiencing symptoms to get further steps for testing. The method they are developing involves patients reporting symptoms to an accessible website and then being recommended to get a test done at a drive-by CVS, Walmart, or Walgreens. Yes, you heard that correct. Soon, tests will be available at a drive-by location such as CVS and Walmart. All you have to do is take a swab of your throat or your upper nostril, and they will be able to use this RT-PCR technique to tell if you have coronavirus or COVID-19. In addition, let's take a look at another company. Roche Holdings recently got their test for coronavirus approved by the FDA in an emergency protocol. It also uses this same PCR technique. On their machines, 4,128 patients can be tested per day, and the disease can be tested 10 times faster. So with all of this, the outlook is good. Cases for COVID-19 are likely to explode, but then slow down after health precautions and testing awareness is improved. Hopefully, we can learn from the situations other countries have faced and work together globally in science and research to eliminate COVID-19 for good. Let us know what you think of COVID-19 down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and make sure to subscribe for more. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Make sure to also check the description below and the video right there on the screen for real-time analytics of the COVID-19 outbreak across all sorts of countries. Trust me, it's really cool. We'll see you next time.